Well, here we go. Part two, I guess. The educational, spiritual, that kind of side of things, esoteric, I guess, is included. I'll go back to the beginning. I was first taught sign language until I was 2. That was my first language. It's not my uh, native language in that sense because I was raised to a hearing world rather than being included in a deaf one from the get go. And but you know, then I had normal school educational experiences in terms of I went to preschool, I started kindergarten, I went to a specialized kindergarten across town because of my disability issues, because of my lower anatomy. I also have some issues with going to the bathroom. I can't hold it. There's not enough equipment that's present that the signals get missed or they're just not there's not enough time for those signals to make their way up before the body's already ready to go. Um, so if you see me running across the room real quick, headed towards the bathroom, I guess, yeah, there's reason for it. I don't just do these things to do these things. Like, I have purpose in what I do. Um, Anyways, go on to school. I went to, and then I was, after kindergarten, I was transferred to my local school, French immersion, to follow my siblings. We were all going to go through the French immersion program before my brother was in an accident when he was about 5. He started kindergarten in English and French, and then by the time he's in grade 1, he's in English stream because he couldn't keep up. He was out of school often enough that it was difficult for him to keep up in French. Uh, but my sister and I were both in the French immersion program in our local school, and it was interesting. I was one of the kind of guinea pig kids of mainstream deaf kids away from uh, the deaf schools. Deaf schools were rampant with abuse to the point where older students would uh, sexually assault younger students as a rite of passage. It was something passed down from abusive staff that thought they could get away with shit because nobody's going to hear it. Somebody scream when everybody's deaf. So they felt safe. And it created issues for our community, parallels to the First Nations community um, in many ways. Very different reasons for it, but very much the First Nations residential schools were kill the Indian in the child. The deaf schools were kill the deafness in the child, make them as hearing as possible. Uh, but they were taken advantage of because nobody could really do anything about it. Power and control. Power control's a bitch. People shouldn't do that shit. They should. It's painful to even think about it. I never experienced it, but I know many people who did, and it's painful to think about. I knew deaf elders who had their fingers broken to stop them from signing. They proudly signed when they got the chance. I never had my fingers broken, but I had my spirit broken. Because I didn't have the backup I should have had. I didn't get interpreters. I didn't get anything but frustration when I didn't hear instructions. I got in trouble because somebody else chose to make fun of me or say something that caused me to react in a certain way. at home, at school, everywhere I went, basically. I wasn't allowed to explain. I wasn't allowed to advocate. I wasn't allowed to be anything but what I was told. The only acceptance I got was from the church, the Catholic Church. And even that was limited because nobody understood. And so I was very much funneled, not guided. I had very few friends growing up. The few friends I had were either only very temporary. I lost my first best friend in grade 2 because they moved away, and neither here nor there. But I think I was telling him things that I didn't tell other people, and when I lost that, I lost a place of safety because we became friends when he volunteered in grade 1 to tap me on the shoulder because I wouldn't hear the school bells at lunch. So but he volunteered to help me out, and we became friends. Um, and then he went away. And I tried to make a few other friends over the years, and because I was so desperate for connection, I made connections that were wrong, that were terrible to make. Saying, invite me to your birthday party, I'll invite you to mine, and the person that said sure, they made sure that it wasn't actually reciprocal because they, instead of inviting the normal group and adding me, they made it a class thing so that everybody was invited. So I was just another one in the crowd again. Um, that same person came to my birthday. We had a sleepover, and they and the other friends there locked me in the bathroom after doing Bloody Mary, scaring the fuck out of me and not letting me out. So those were the kinds of friendships I had growing up. The rare one I found in high school was my friend Diana. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for not disappearing. I know we don't talk a lot, but I'm proud of you, and I don't like to say that. I'm proud of you for everything you've done in your life. Thank you for seeing me. I graduated grade 7 elementary school, and already by then, the only people who would sign my yearbook were the teachers. High school is a little better because I did go to a Catholic high school. I opted to go because going to the French immersion program in my hometown would have been just following the bullies. So I left. I went to Archbishop Kearney High School when it was brand new, only the second class in. My brother was in the class above me, so there was that issue too. We ended up in the same religion class in grade 10 because he failed his class and had to repeat. And we were seated alphabetically, so he was right behind me because he was in the senior class. but we were in the same grade, so he was in the back row instead of the front row. We were in a W shape, and he would do shit like kick the back of my chair, and I ignored it and ignored it and ignored it until I literally had to just whip around one day and shoved him to the back of the wall. I couldn't stand it anymore. Everybody looked at me and he won't stop kicking the back of my chair. They finally moved him out of that class then because that was just stupid. And I complained about him harassing me, and he said, well, just ignore it, like everybody did. I was always told growing up, ignore the bullies, ignore the bullies, ignore the bullies. Ignoring the bullies just gives them permission and makes you bottle shit up. Bottling up your emotions sucks. It hurts. It's painful. Ignoring it just makes it explode in stupid, stupid ways. Because nobody understands what's going on inside. And people tell you from the time you're little that you're weird, you're wrong, you're built wrong, you think wrong, you shouldn't be doing that because it's wrong. Stop doing that. Don't do that. You can't do that. Don't do that to your kids, please. Growing up, it was sports as well. My entire family was in soccer at some point except for me. I enjoyed watching the sport, but I wasn't allowed to play because everybody was too afraid that I'd get shattered physically. No, you can't do that. You've only got one kidney. Somebody's going to kick the ball and hit you in the kidney. No, you can't do that because your depth perception won't let you do that. I wanted to play baseball. My brother and I were both supposed to try baseball one year. I had a baseball glove and everything, and then we're on summer vacation and tossing the ball around, and the way I was positioned was the sun's up here in my vision. If I look up the right direction, it was right there. We were tossing a softball around, and the ball gets tossed in the air to me, and it just went right into the sun. And by the time I could see the ball's shadow coming at me, I put up my glove, and the ball came down, whacked me right in the face, right here on my blind side. This is like so, that killed any chance I had at trying out for a team then, because they said, "Oh no," but oh no, their depth perception, Lori's depth perception is not going to allow them to play baseball because they'll always miss the ball. Well, no, it's not that. It was the sun had gotten into my face. The ball was hidden in the sun. By the time I saw it, it was too late for me to adjust my glove appropriately. I tried. It just clipped the edge of the glove. But the result was no baseball for me at all. No chance at it. Um, but it was a result that came from a decision that didn't include my input because I wasn't given the chance to explain that the sun had been in my eyes. Nope, we're just not doing that. You're not allowed to do that. I wasn't allowed to play soccer at all. Baseball was kibosh. Football would have been right out. That wasn't interesting to me though. So we tried something else. We tried karate, and I excelled in that. But again, there was restrictions. I wasn't. We started me at one club, and I was doing well and going through testing, and the excuse was made that the testing was getting too expensive because it was happening too quickly. Well, no, it wasn't. I just wasn't going to be allowed to progress without sparring, and my parents said no sparring. So, because again, they were afraid that I was going to get hurt because of depth perception and blah 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 blah. But it was that's what it was. That particular club wouldn't let me progress without sparring. So we moved me to another club that sensei said, okay, no sparring. But again, that was just dumb because you learn the techniques, you learn the forms, and you don't learn how to apply them. Do you really know how to defend yourself? I have some instincts to it. I remember being in college and walking to the grocery store one day, and this one woman came at me. I don't know if she had some sort of mental instability or was on some sort of substance or something. I don't know. But she came up to me and she's like, I know you. You're my sister. And I looked at them and, no, I don't know you. Yes, you are. You're my sister. Blah, blah. I don't know you. And then she spotted my hearing aid because at the time I was already wearing the skull mounted one. And she reached, what is that? She reached out for it. And was able to block and walk away. Um, so I have some muscle memory and some understanding, but I can't really finish a fight. Karate says never start one, always finish one. I don't even know how to finish one. Not in that movie. Uh, but the instruction to the sensei was no sparring, rather than adapt the sparring to my needs. I had to learn how to advocate for myself that later, which I did as an adult. Uh, but that was it. So instead of getting accommodations and understanding, I would get push-ups for saying no, I can't do this, because my body was also dealing with scoliosis and other things, and so you know people are saying your hands not staying on your hips, and you're not trying. Like, yes, I'm trying. I can't do it. No, go do push-ups. No, it's like, no, there's a reason my arm doesn't always stay flat to my side. It's because my spine is not fucking straight. Well, my sensei as an adult learned that very quickly. It's like I was advocating for myself, saying, yeah, no, I can do this, I can't do that. I have to adapt these things. So, just a fun example, we're talking about me. Did I talk about this in another video? I don't know. If I did, I apologize. I'm just free flowing as usual. But, you know, we were doing a floor exercise for warm ups, and you got one person sitting on the ground with their feet up in the air. There. Yeah, whatever. Your feet are up in the air, and your body's down on the ground, and you've got somebody standing here, and that's right. I don't know. Whichever way. You got your feet up, and they're behind you, and they push your feet down, and they push your feet down so your feet go down, and you have to stop yourself before your feet hit the floor. It's a core exercise to help. Um, and so Sensei's wandering around the room between all these pairs and saying, you need to do this, try this, do that. He's walking by me and he sees us do a push, and I'm like, you need to speed it up. You can speed it up. And I just went, no, I can't. And he did a double take because you don't say no to Sensei. You do not say no to Sensei. Um, But he did a double take and went, "Oh, wait, who said that?" And he looked down and saw me on the floor. He said, "Oh, it's you. Never mind." He walked away because I'd advocated for myself, and he knew that I knew what I was talking about. He knew that there was a reason we were stopped at this speed. If I did it any further, I would hurt my back. We were still pushing things. I was still doing the exercise to the best of my ability, but it was just not capable of the same level. But I was doing the exercise as opposed to not being allowed to do damn thing. So I've had to come through that too. Like I can do some things, I can't do other things, but let me try. I'll try, and the other night at throwing weapons practice, uh, knife throwing for me right now. I had a bad back day because of the weather, and I went and I tried, and it's like, I'm gonna try. I'll take a few swings at it and see how my back does. I think I got about 5 or 6 throws out and went, nope, we're done. Can't do it. It's not happening today. And the person overseeing the throwing weapons was like, yeah, I could tell your back is not right today. Uh, so I get it. He's like, yeah. I went and did something else. I went and painted a mask for a mask ball for the medieval role play Society for Creative Anachronism. That was another type of fun, anyways. Uh, but I do things because my body tells me. I do things because I know it's the right thing to do in that moment, in that need. Uh, go back to high school. Um, I was heavily involved in the religious side of the Catholic school. Um, in grade 8, I volunteered to be the sacristan for the priest. Sacristan was the person who set up the table, the mass, the altar, all the bits and pieces. So I learned my Catholic symbols early. I learned my cups and my other things early, from grade 8 onward, because the way it came about, I would usually get dropped off to school early because it was on the way to Dad's work, and he would drop me and my brother off, and brother would tootle off wherever he wanted to, and I would go to the mass, and I think it was Tuesday mornings. And one day, father was late because he got stuck in traffic or something, and he he blows in late and has to set everything up himself. And after mass, he had to take everything down again. So I went up to him after mass and said, "Can I help you somehow, Father? Because that's like, it seems like you need some hands to do something for you." And he's like, "Yeah, take it down." And this was my initiation as a sacristan. Yes, please. Uh, Everything is set up the way it needs to be set up for mass. Take it down and put it up in reverse order. So we've got the way that it's set up. You have the cup. You had here we go. Use this. You had the plate, and there was a cloth over it and things like this. And so take it down in reverse order. So put the plate away first, put the cloth away second, put the cup away third. Take it out, cup out first, cloth out, that out, and you'll be fine. That was my major initiation into setting up the altar for the priest. Uh, and that was about it for a while. I learned a lot more growing on, but that was my first initiation, and I went, okay, and I did it. I got a lot of license to kind of wander a little bit out of that and some other things that I had going on for me because disability issues. So I would go and I would do that, set up the mass, set up the altar for the priest, and then after mass, put it all away and be late to class because I had to put everything away. And so I got some of those allowances. Excuse me. And and so I took all these kinds of things and translated them into having a religious vocation. And being nominally and labeled female at the time, naturally that meant the sisterhood, religious vows as a nun, something like that. So I went into that with the Sisters of the Child Jesus primarily for most of my 20s. Uh, I was attached to them in some way. Lovely, lovely community, beautiful women. There's history there with the First Nations communities, positive and negative both. Uh, I'll get into that in another video. But my journey was with them, and so uh, one of their things, if you were applying, if you were trying to, an aspirant to their community, somebody who was interested, it says there's 4 levels, kind of aspirant, postulant, novitiate, and vowed. An aspirant is somebody who's interested. So I was interested, so I was an aspirant. And they insisted, even at the aspirant level, that you do psychological work. So all through my 20s, I did a method of psychological work called PRH. PRH is from the French for the term. In English, it's personalities and human relations. So you're talking about interactive personalities, who you are, who other people are, how we trigger each other, how we do all this kind of stuff. And so I did that for a good decade of study of my own, in a sense. Uh, when I graduated Archbishop Kearney, I went on to Douglas College and did a year and a half of music, a bit more. Um, I got and then followed that with some other general studies courses and followed that with classroom and community support, which was my professional career for a while. So I went to Douglas College, like I said, basic music program. That's the 1 year certificate that's below the university entry program. So Douglas College is a feeder program to an EBC, which is a major operatic music classical program. Um, so I did the basic program, which was a foundations kind of thing. So you got your voice lessons, you got piano lessons, da 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 da, theory lessons, these things, basic lessons to get you up to the level you need to be at. And then I realized about halfway through my first year in the UBC feeder program that I was not really cut out to be a classical musician. So I moved on to some other courses and then to the classroom and community support after that. Uh, General studies courses I was taking included languages. I took German in high school, and I took German in college. I had been in French immersion. Went to Kearney, and at Kearney I had to take Spanish because it was so brand new that they weren't yet capable of taking advanced French students and putting them in a French class. I would have been able to teach the classes really. Uh, that would have put me in a whole different world of hurt. That was silliness. But no, that wouldn't have happened. But so by the time I got to college, and I mean the voice major program, you really need to know your languages so that you can at least kind of understand the words and go and get a translation that makes sense for the song. So you're not going, every night fucking schmetterling, la 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 la, and going, I'm a beautiful butterfly. It, the difference there, like I just spoke German and I spoke English. Ich bin einfach ein Schmetterling. Is not I'm a beautiful butterfly. Schmetterling is butterfly, but the connotation there is very different. I am. I'm Schmetterling. But fucking, what's that sound like? It is. It is what it sounds like in English. So the song, that's a silly little song, but it illustrates the point of you need to know the languages well enough to understand those sentiments and nuances to be able to sing the song and put the proper emphasis behind it. And so I went and did German in college, and then you know, between the karate and other things, I know a bit of Latin and a little just how to count to 10 in Japanese and how to say kick with your left leg, kick with your right leg. I don't know enough Japanese to have a conversation, but it's one of the many languages I have some exposure to. Uh, and then I spent a good deal of time. I spent a number of years working with adults with disabilities in the community, supporting them. And then I went to Archbishop Current, not Archbishop, I went to work at St. Thomas Aquinas High School in North Vancouver. And while I was doing that, I decided I would try for a master's degree in something at St. Mark's Catholic College, which is a UBC affiliate college. So it's an accredited university college with accredited coursework and accredited degrees. Uh, I ended up with a master's in religious education, so I have that behind me. But to get in, the program requirements included a psychology background in study, as well as other things. And so I had my, you know, college level work is undergraduate, graduate, master's, PhD. I had my undergraduate stuff, and I took all those. So I had 5 years worth of accreditation, basically. Not a full 4 year degree, but I had two-year diplomas and a 1 year certificate under that as well. So I had enough undergraduate work to pass, but they needed graduate work. I didn't have any of that, but what I did have was my PRH experience, and so I took the course descriptions because those courses were good 30-hour courses. You would go for a week and you would work morning and afternoon and, to on yourself and to understand the human experience and understand human psychology. So I took the course description from that to St. Mark's, and they looked at it and said that's a psychology degree. So without having the degree, I have the degree. And then, so I took that, and my first course at St. Mark's was called Introduction to Spirituality, and it turned out to be trying to understand Meister Eckhart and that type online. That was such a mind melting course. Uh, I had to do we had to do an essay on Meister Eckhart and do a reading on one of his things. And Meister Eckhart is a high level theology, very difficult to parse for the best thinkers. I had to rewrite my essay 3 times, completely different ways, to get it to where a point where I felt it was right and submit. So it's not easy. Um, so and then after that, my back gave out uh, at some point, and I went into chronic isolation, chronic pain. Um, I was semi-isolated for a long time because I had a on and off again cross the border partnership with somebody, so I would go down there for a couple of weeks and spend time down there, but I was still in isolation. I didn't leave the house. I would go across the border, they'd pick me up, and I would go and sit in their house for a week or two, and then I come home and sit in my house for a week or two or more, or whatever it was, because there were times when I was going out regularly. And that was where I learned a lot about karmic relationships, reciprocal relationships, uh, and abuse, physical abuse in a relationship. It was a very, very object lesson in the idea of once is a mistake, twice is a choice, three times is a pattern. And I accepted it to the third time. I accepted a lot of abuse in my life, so it is what it is, and it's a shitty mess that I've lived through, and now I'm here. Again, I hope this helps you to understand who I am and where I'm coming from and where I sit. I sit here, but I sit here, and I sit here with very deliberate purpose and very deliberate understanding. Here we are, continuing on the journey.